Hi all, I thought we'd have a quick chat about selling prints, or print sales as it's often called, because this is one area which many photographers and indeed painters and so on find very difficult. Now, I think the main issue is that getting your photographs to be seen by many people and prospective buyers, of course. So many of us fall into the trap of where we take a few strong images, we maybe put them on some sort of social media or on our website and they get a lot of attention. Maybe even you've won a competition or two with those images. But then what you tend to find, and I've been through this on several occasions, that when you think, wow, this must be a popular image, surely it's got to sell, and you put it out to market, you find, and there's a real strong reality check here, that there's very little interest. And as I've got a sales and marketing background from the other job, the day job if you like, it's something which I've been given a lot of thought. Now usually when you see about print sales on YouTube or other social media outlets, they talk a lot about printing and where to get things printed and so on, and of course all of that, the technical side of print sales, is very important. What media you might use, as in do you print yourself or do you use others to do it? But what I think is really the important conversation to be had is, how do you go about getting your work noticed and out there? Now, I've tried a few different things. I've tried using online galleries who will show your work and also directly sell your work to the end customer, giving you a fee back if you like, and they keep either a commission or a handling fee or all of the above. I've tried eBay. I've tried my own website, of course, and I've tried just generally putting them out there by word, let's call it word of mouth. And to be honest, none of those have been really successful. I did actually sell some on eBay. I did sell some through online galleries. But what I've noticed, and again touching on my sales and marketing background, is this actually, and this is the reality check, is a very niche area. And landscapes on their own is niche enough. But if you do a different genre, let's say you do boudoir, or you do portrait, or you do architectural, or whatever the case may be, fantasy, you will find it's actually really quite difficult to find your market. For example, many people like to take photos of pretty models in interesting locations, but when you think about it, what are you doing that for? If it's for personal projects and practice for all concerned, then yeah, absolutely, there's a good reason to do that. But if you're doing it and you're hoping that you're going to be able to produce these pictures, put them on social media, and somebody's going to just start ringing you, your phone's going to start jumping off of your desk, and people want to hire you for Harper's Bazaar and Elle and so on, that reality check, guys, that's just not going to happen. And in fact, if it does, then you are 1 in a million. The same with Instagram and so on. You may get a lot of attention, you may get a lot of complimentary comments, but does it actually mean that somebody wants to go out of their way to part with their money and get one of your images printed, and they're going to hang it in a pride of place within their home or business place, or whatever the case may be? That, as many have said before, is the ultimate honor, really, to have your print printed and hung on somebody else's wall and them give you money to do that. And it is, as I've already said, very difficult to achieve. So when you apply normal sales and marketing thinking to this sort of thing, the key issue is to get your work in front of your target audience or your target customers. So what you have to do basically is find your market. What is your marketplace? Now, if you do landscapes, what is it? If we go back about 100 years, 150 years or further, landscape paintings were incredibly popular, and some guys made a fair income in those days painting scenes of the rural English landscape, Scottish landscape, Welsh, whatever, British landscapes, and people would pay to have either the original prints, a lot of money, or they would have the original painting or prints of reproductions of those original prints. And some of you, if you've got grandparents or even great-grandparents, you may find if you go around to those houses that is still the case. They may well have lovely picturesque landscapes, usually paintings on their walls. Now, in 2018, and probably the previous 10 years to it, or maybe even further, those weren't quite popular things to have on your wall. The world changed and fashion changed and people's tastes in what they wanted. In fact, there were periods where wall art had just about disappeared in its entirety in favour of fancy wallpapers and paint schemes and other decorative items. So that's why it's so difficult. Going back to my example, if you're taking pictures of pretty models in odd locations, that really is just for you. Because I was thinking this through, and who would want to buy something like that and put it on their wall? I mean, that really is for the photographer and for the model, isn't it? That's just a very sort of insular thing. It's more like a hobbyist thing which you're doing for your own entertainment. Anyway, swiftly moving on. So if you're taking photos of, some people might say fine art nude, again, think about that genre. We've all seen it, you know it when you see it. It's that kind of fine line between pornography and fine art. But again, I'm 47 years old this year. I've been in photography a long time. I've never been to anybody's home where they've got a fine art nude on the wall. I mean, I do own a Paul Strand one myself somewhere, I think, but that's put away in a cupboard. I've got children, and it's not particularly provocative either. It's actually a very tasteful one. But generally speaking, if you're making that kind of stuff and you're hoping to sell a lot of prints, again, unless you know about markets that I've never heard of, it's very, very niche. I would imagine in most cases those may be purchased by perhaps a friend or relative or somebody with a keen interest in the naked form. But other than that, where's the market? So this brings me full circle. I could go on about other genres, of course, but I think you get the picture, no pun intended, that it's just not a common thing these days. Some people do collect them, but the real challenge for you as a landscape photographer, if you're watching this in particular, is you will find the majority of people that go to your website and look at your work are just other landscape photographers, and we just don't tend to put each other's work on our walls. Some of us do, but most of us don't. So I'm beginning to build the picture now, I think, of just how tough the market is. So what are the potential markets? Where is there some possibility of doing some print sales? Well, the first thing, of course, is your fan base. If you have a fan base of they may be photographers, they may not be, who follow you on social media, one or two of them, or maybe even more, I don't know, maybe tens, maybe hundreds, may be encouraged to buy one of your prints as almost a memento. Like I have some signed books here from some of my favourite inspirational photographers. That's how I sort of have a piece of them, if you like. It's a nice memento. But out of that book I get a lot more. I get many images, and I also get to read the text and understand something about those photographers. But prints, again, that's even tougher, So most of us, if we're honest, probably print and hang our own work on our walls, okay? I've got this 4 here, which I keep, I think, at any one time I try to keep my strongest 4 images on the wall here in the office as a constant reminder to try and do better. And if I pull off an image which I think is stronger than one of those 4, I'll trade it. And I'll keep doing that, so I've always got that top line, if you like, up there on the wall to keep pushing me along. But other than that, not really a great deal of a market out there for it. As I said, the things I have sold, and this is probably one of the possibilities, are images of local, or well, they could be anywhere really, they don't need to be local to you, but let's call them beauty spots for the time being, where people have visited, perhaps on holiday, vacation, and they visited those spots, they have a memorable time there, and they want to take something back with them. That's how I sold my prints on eBay, for example, because I listed them very clearly with the location, and I made sure that I thought about which images to put up on eBay, which might hold fond memories to people. So they're quite famous local areas, which I've tried to photograph a little bit differently. And when the customers got hold of me to order those things, I often asked them, or I say often, the few occasions it did, I asked them, what the background was, and it's because they'd been there, and they actually then went on a search by the name of the place to find imagery of it. They may have also bought paintings, I don't know, but in this particular case that I'm thinking of, this example, they purchased 2 prints from me because they toured the North Devon coast on a holiday on a 2-week vacation, loved it so much they wanted to take something back. But that led me on to thinking, well, how could I market to those kind of people, that market itself, that potential customer base, with my landscape imagery? What I need to do is, I guess, in this sort of order, and I'm thinking of this off the top of my head as I'm speaking. You need to, A, recognize what location. So are they near holiday resorts? Are they near campsites? Are they near hotels, or whatever the case may be? That's the first thing. Identify the location. Could be the Lake District if you're up north. It could be anywhere like that, the Peak District. 2, think about the local landmarks which people will go to when they're visiting the area. And if they're of some significance, they may want to take away a memory of that. Now, I know you're competing with people in their own iPhones and cameras, but there is a group of people out there, trust me, who actually want something a little bit more special than that. Thirdly, once you discover those places, or at least acknowledge them, and then you've got your photographs, how are you going to get those photographs in front of the people who are visiting or have visited, so that they can show an interest in buying your work? So I think that comes back to a bit of an old technique, which isn't my idea, which you hear a lot about. In fact, you see a lot about. It's certainly down here in the southwest where a lot of these sort of places. And that is to find local small businesses in particular where you can promote your work, put a link in some way or a tie back to you so that they can buy it. And you may have to do some sort of deal with the hosting business, if you like, so that they get something from it too. You may be really lucky and they just are appreciative of the free art. But I think in most cases you're probably going to have to give some kind of kickback, some kind of commission. So what I'm talking about, of course, are places like coffee shops, taxi waiting areas, doctor surgeries maybe, anything where people gather and wait and have a little bit of time, or maybe not wait, maybe get a meal or a drink or something like that, where they are going to be exposed to your imagery, hopefully within a reasonable distance, printed on the wall where they happen to be. And that way they can acknowledge the piece of work, they can hopefully pick up the details and then pursue that in some way as the route to sale, as we call it. Now, as I said, whether or not you do some sort of deal with that location, that's up to you. You're going to have to find your feet with that. You may yet have to ask, I'll give you a percentage of the sale of this. Some places may want the sale to be done through them and then pay you back. It really depends, doesn't it? At least that way they get control. Or the other alternative is you can just put some sort of card or notice against or near the photo, directing people to your website where they can procure them directly, and then maybe you, with a bit of honesty, you go through and kick back to the hosting area. So I think that is probably the way to do it from my own experiences, until you get, I guess, so well known, like an Ansel Adams, sorry to use that name again, or a Charlie Way, or a Joe Cornish, or whatever, until you get to a point where you can have a gallery of your own and you will draw in a true fan customer base to your exhibition or your personal gallery in order to sell your prints from there. And then of course you can extend that through the internet and put it on your website and so on. But until you've got that kind of name for yourself, I think what you need to do is you need to get your name out there. And bear in mind, social media may seem massive and the internet may seem massive, but I have definitely sold more prints through other routes than directly from my own website, because people just struggle to find it unless they know your name. And unless you're very, very good at doing keywording and linking and all the online marketing to direct people to you, you're better off maybe sometimes leaving that to others. When I have used, just a little note about online galleries, I do tend to find they're very, very difficult because they have such a vast amount of products, they have such a vast amount of photographers on there, and painters and sculptors and so on. I'm not going to name them, you know what they are, you can go look them up, but you're just swamped really. And so that's why I think this niche way of marketing, to go direct, to find places where people can physically get close to your work and then decide if they want it or not, is probably the better road to do that. Yeah, the experience I had with the online gallery, or at least one I can think of, was once they got a contributing photographer who started to get a good run, the work could have been strong, it might have been not so strong, but because it might have been particularly attractive for one reason or another, they tended to push those photographers to the front, and then they would get all of the exposure on the front of website and so on, and it really did push the rest back. So you only tended to have one artist of the week or the month or something, and I'm not sure that model really worked. It didn't give the incoming viewer, potential customer, enough of a spread of a variation of work. And there's also, those websites have to be set up very, very cleverly so that people can quite quickly get to the type and the style, or the genre even of imagery that they're looking for. So My potential tips, and I'm yet to go and try this in full anger, so this is me coming out with the idea and putting it out there, and I'm going to go and run with it and we'll see how it goes, is to come up with the imagery, of course. Be very selective about what you're going to potentially put up for sale. Unless you've got a very specialist niche art market or fine art market or something like that, I think you need to put out what might be popular content, which may be stuff which people can identify with, and then, you know, maybe take home and keep with them because it's a link back to a memory in some way. And I think you need to, as I've said, take it to those areas and market it from there. Do some deals with some local businesses and see how you get on. If any of you have had experiences to Contra and you've been very successful through some of the big websites or some or even the smaller independent online galleries and sales that way, please let us know in the notes below, because I think you'll find that a lot of people are very interested in how you achieved that, because it's pretty tough market out there to get your prints sold. Hopefully fashions will change. I think that's the biggest thing. I think fashion is the biggest thing. When landscapes or even cityscapes or whatever become more and more popular out there in society for people to want to put on their walls and so on, something needs to change in that way. I think then we'll come round to a much easier market. But for the time being, we're still in that period, I think, where although it's getting slightly better, as an example, do you remember the whole canvas period where it was trendy to have big canvases on your walls? And then, you know, landscape photography did okay, and so did cityscapes and so on. Some street stuff did. But that's again got a little bit, you know, cliche now. So what's next? Hopefully it's fine art prints, well framed, well presented, and then, you know, those of us who are out there doing it that've got some stuff which may be of interest can get some sales done. Anyway, that's it. I was Martin Gilman. This is thevividland.com. Thanks again for watching. And like I said, please contribute, put your comments below, share your experiences, and I look forward to having a chat about it and seeing how we get on as we move forward with this. Bye for now.